Hey guys, it's Mr. C here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the uniform number generator, in particular using it for creating a column of values for problem 5 of the Module 5 analysis assignment. I've received a few emails asking for some clarification, not only on what the problem is asking of, but what you're required to do in order to generate these values. So here we are. In this video, what we're going to be doing is generating just one column of values, and of course you'd repeat this process in order to have the 10 full columns of values as required by the analysis assignment. Basically, I'd like to talk about the problem a little bit, and then we'll dive into the action for using the uniform generator. So this problem is about Nasonex, and we're looking at two different groups of people. The first group of people are those that were given a placebo, and as noted in the problem, 2 of them developed an upper respiratory tract infection. The other group of people consisted of a few more patients, in particular 2,103 of them, and these people were treated with Nasonex, and it turns out that 6 of them developed an upper respiratory tract infection. So it says here in the third sentence of the problem that we want to assume that Nasonex has no effect on upper respiratory tract infections. And because of that, we're going to assume that the rate of those infections also applies to Nasonex users, and by that we mean the rate at which the placebo people develop tract infections applies to those as the Nasonex users. So it also states that the placebo rate is going to be 2 out of 1,671. So hopefully that makes sense, because in the first sentence it states that, or second sentence that is, it states that 2 people out of the 1,671 subjects develop tract infections. Overall, what we're trying to do in this simulation and with the rest of the problems in the analysis assignment is see whether or not Nasonex has an influence on people developing upper respiratory tract infections. And of course, the way that we're going to see that is by process of a simulation. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the simulation to generate at least one column of values here. So as you can see, I have the StatDisk software open and a blank StatDisk sample editor. And what I'm going to do here is just go over to the very top and click the Data tab. And almost towards the bottom, you're going to see Uniform Generator. So go ahead and click that. And now the sample size. So here it can be a little bit tricky. What are we really studying here? Like, which group are we doing the simulation for, so on and so forth. And let me go ahead and answer that for you right now. We are doing the simulation for the Nasonex people. So in the problem, it stated that there were 2,103 patients that were treated with the Nasonex. So for that reason, the sample size is going to be 2,103. Now the minimum refers to the smallest number that you want in your list, and that's going to be 1. So before I enter the rest of the values in here, I do want to talk about what the significance of 1 is. Any instance of 1 in our list is going to indicate an infection of these 2,103 patients. But note that the rate is 2 out of 1,671. So if we also see a 2 in the list, a 2 will indicate an infection as well. So even though the minimum is 1, we're keeping track of not only the 1s, but also the 2s in the column of values, should any of them show up. Now for the maximum, this is actually going to be based on the placebo rate. And to this end, the denominator of the placebo rate is going to be the maximum value. And the denominator is 1,671. Number of decimals refers to the digits that are going to be generated in the column. We only want whole numbers here, so for that reason, the number of decimals I would just prefer to use 0 for. That way we just get nice whole natural numbers. And random seed, to be honest with you, we almost never put anything in for that. So this is what you want to use for your uniform number generator. So before I have the StatDisk software do its magic, I do want to talk a little bit about what to expect beforehand. So our sample size is 2,103. So we're telling the software to generate 2,103 values in the first column. Now the digits that it's constricted to are the digits between, excuse me, 1 and 1,671. So even though we're going to see 2,103 values, we're not going to see anything smaller than 1, of course, but we're also not going to see anything larger than 1,671. So there's definitely a good chance that numbers are going to be duplicated. I think that's kind of an obvious there. But the numbers that we're really interested in are those that are 1s and 2s. All right, so even though we're going to have some numbers duplicated, what are the chances that a 1 is going to be duplicated and a 2 is going to be duplicated? All right, so we're going to go ahead and see that right now. So let's go ahead and hit generate. And here's what the little window is showing us right there. So this is the value in row 1, it's 171, row 2, 1,547, so on and so forth. What I'm going to do next is click copy and minimize this window. And I'm going to go to the first cell, so first row, first column, and I'm going to right click and just hit paste. Alright, so now I'm going to get out of this column, and there we have it. Those are all the values that the software has randomly generated for us. Now, as a reminder, these values are going to be strictly between 1 and 1,671. All right, but as you can see now, I'm not seeing any 1s and 2s here, and you're definitely not either. So what we're going to do next is sort this column so that any 1s that are part of the list will be at the very top, as well as any 2s and so on and so forth. So basically, we're going to sort this in numerical order. So one way of doing this is to click on the column heading right there and right click it, and you'll see a window pops up, and the second option here says sort with this column. Alright, so what I did is I left clicked the 1 right here, the column heading, and I right clicked it, and I'm going to go to the second option here, which says sort with this column. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and it brings up an extra little menu up here, and it says we're going to sort all columns. Nothing to change there. We'll use column 1, and the order is from A to Z. So the software will assume the A to Z also means 1 at the very top and the largest number at the very bottom. So it'll sort it in numerical order, even though it's using letters right here. All right. So essentially, don't change this option, don't change that, don't change that. Now we'll actually go ahead and let the software do its magic and click sort. Alright, so that happens in the blink of an eye, and as you can gather from here, going from top to bottom, the numbers are going in order of increasing size. So based on the very, first few values here, somebody did get an upper respiratory tract infection, as indicated by the number 2 here. All right, but there was only one person of this entire list of 2,103 people there. All right, so yeah, that right there is kind of an indication that the Nasonex doesn't necessarily have an influence on the upper respiratory tract infections. Now, is everybody going to be seeing the same list of numbers when they run through this process on their own? Absolutely not. I've seen columns with 3 1s and 2 2s. I've seen columns with maybe a 1 and a 2. All right, but that just depends on the numbers that are randomly generated for you via the stat disk. All right, but in terms of this video, after going through all this, this first simulation only generated one number 2, meaning that during this simulation only one person got an upper respiratory tract infection. All right, so you would go ahead and basically emulate this process 9 more times, and that would help you really see whether or not Nasonex has an influence on upper respiratory tract infections. All right, so I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions regarding the video or any other questions regarding the analysis, feel free to contact me and I'd be happy to help out. Otherwise, thanks for watching.